In the serene village of Ilupeju, located deep within the Yoruba land, lived a man of great wealth and even greater influence named Adewale. His name was spoken with reverence, not only for the vastness of his farmlands and the wisdom he carried, but also for the large, diverse family he had built. Adewale was the proud husband of three wives. Yes, three wives: Iyabo, Funke, and Sade. Iyabo was the first wife. She was a woman of deep wisdom and grace. She had been by Adewale's side since his youth, and her counsel was highly regarded. But in their home and within the village, Iyabo was the mother of three children. Her eldest son was Tunde, being the pride of the family for his intelligence and his charisma. Funke, the second wife, was a fiery and assertive woman. She had entered Adewale's life when his wealth had started to flourish, bringing with her a fierce loyalty and determination. She was quick to speak her mind, which often led to clashes, especially with Iyabo, whose composed demeanor Funke perceived as condescending. Funke had two children, and her daughter, Kemi, was the apple of her eye. Sade, the youngest wife, was gentle and soft-spoken. She was the peacemaker in the household, often smoothing over the conflicts that arose between her co-wives. Sade was deeply loved by Adewale for her kindness and humility. She had two young children, who she devoted her life and affection to. Though Adewale tried to maintain the peace in his home, the undercurrents of the rivalry amongst his wives were palpable. The women vied for his affection and attention, and the competition slowly seeped into their children's relationships. The once joyful compound began to grow tense, with every interaction charged with unspoken resentment. One hot afternoon, the shimmering tension came to a head. Funke had always felt overshadowed by Iyabo, believing that her position as a second wife was a mark of inferiority. Her jealousy deepened when she noticed how often Adewale praised Iyabo's son, Tunde, for his intelligence and good manners. To Funke, this was a proof that Adewale favored Iyabo's son over hers. Funke's envy festered until it became too much to bear. One evening, while the compound was busy with preparations for a family feast, Funke conceived a plan to eliminate what she thought was the threat to her own children's future. She decided to poison Tunde, the son who had stolen their husband's affections. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, Funke prepared a meal for the family. She added a deadly herb to the dish she intended for Tunde, her heart pounding with fear and anticipation. She watched closely as the food was served, her breath catching each time as Tunde's hand hovered over his plate. But before Tunde could eat, a goat, drawn by the smell of the food, unnoticed by the family, began to nibble at the poisoned meal. Within minutes, the goat began to stagger, its legs wobbling under its weight before it finally collapsed on the floor, convulsing with the poison coming out of his mouth. The sight of the dying animal caused an uproar in the compound. "What happened?" Sade cried out in panic as she rushed to the scene, finding the goat thrashing on the ground. Iyabo, who had been tending to the children, ran to the scene also, her heart pounding. "This is not natural. Something must be wrong with the food," she cried, her eyes widening in horror. Funke, seeing her plan crumble before her eyes, struggled to maintain her composure. "It must have eaten something bad outside," she suggested, though her voice betrayed her nervousness. Adewale, who had been supervising some workers in the nearby field, was quickly summoned. He arrived with a stern expression, his usually calm demeanor replaced by a hard edge as he surveyed the chaotic scene. "Who prepared this meal?" he demanded, his voice cutting through the noise. Funke felt her throat tighten as all eyes turned to her. Before she could answer, Iyabo spoke up, her voice steady but filled with suspicion. Funke cooked the meal, but I am certain she would never do anything to hurt our family. Sade, who had been silent until now, interjected softly. Baba, we should take the food to the herbalist. If there is poison, we will know. Adewale nodded, his face grim, and the food was taken to the village herbalist. The truth will soon be revealed. The meal was indeed poisoned. The revelation sent shockwaves through the compound, leaving everyone in stunned silence. Funke's plan had backfired spectacularly. The very food she had intended for Tunde had nearly killed a goat, and now a secret was out. The gravity of her actions weighed heavily on her, and she broke down in tears as the enormity of her mistake became clear. Adewale, his heart heavy with sorrow, gathered the family under the iroko tree. That night, the air was thick with tension, each wife seated with their children, the weight of the incident hanging over their head like a dark cloud. Funke, Adewale began, his voice filled with disappointment. What have you done? How could you bring such evil into our home? Funke, her face covered with tears, could barely lift her head up. I am sorry, Baba. I was blinded by jealousy. I felt you loved Iyabo and her children more than mine. Adewale shook his head, his expression pained. This is not the way. We are one family. We cannot allow envy to tear us apart. Iyabo, who had been silent until now, spoke up, with a voice filled with both sadness and compassion. Funke, we are all mothers. We should protect each other's children as our own. We cannot afford to be divided like this. Sade, the ever peacemaker, added, we must forgive and move on. Our family cannot survive if we are not united. The tension slowly began to ease, but the scars left by Funke's actions would take time to heal. Adewale decided that from that day forward, each wife would have equal say in the household decisions, ensuring that no one felt sidelined or overlooked. In the days that followed, the wives made conscious efforts to support one another. Iyabo would often help Funke with her children, while Sade spent more time with Iyabo, learning from her wisdom and experience. The children too began to play together, the shadows of their mother's rivalry slowly lifting. But peace did not come easily. The path to their healing was filled with challenges, and the wounds of the past were slow to mend. One night, a fierce storm descended upon Ilupeju. The winds howled through the village, tearing at roofs and uprooting trees. In the chaos, the roof of Sade's quarters was badly damaged, and rain poured in, soaking her children and filling the room with water. The children cried out in fear, their small voices barely audible over the roar of the storm. Sade tried to comfort them, but the sight of the water rising around them filled her with dread. Hearing the cries, Iyabo rushed out of her room, braving the storm to reach Sade's quarters. When she saw the state of her room, her heart went out to Sade and her children. Without hesitation, she gathered the children in her arms and led them to her own quarters, wrapping them in dry blankets and holding them close until their tears were subsided. The next morning, as the storm clouds cleared, the sun broke through. Funke approached Iyabo with tears in her eyes. The sight of Iyabo risking her own safety to protect Sade's children had moved her so deeply. Iyabo, Funke said, her voice choked with emotions. I am so sorry for everything. I see now that you have always cared for us, even when I don't deserve it. Iyabo smiled and placed a hand on Funke's shoulder. We are sisters, Funke. We must stand together for the sake of our children and our family. Adewale, who had been watching from a distance, felt a surge of hope. His wives were finally beginning to see what he had always known, that they were stronger together than they were apart. As the months passed, the wives grew closer, their bond forged through trials and forgiveness. They no longer saw each other as rivals, but as co-mothers, each playing a vital role in raising their children. The love and the respect they showed each other had begun to reflect in the behavior of their children, who grew up seeing the strength of unity and the power of forgiveness. Adewale watched with pride as his family flourished. The compound, once a place of tension and discord, became a heaven of peace and love. The story of how Adewale's family overcame jealousy and strife to become a united and harmonious household spread throughout Ilupeju and even beyond. But life in the compound was still full of challenges. As the children grew, so did the complexities of their relationships. One day, Tunde, Iyabo's oldest son, came back from school with a black eye. The sight of her son bruised and battered sent a wave of anger through Iyabo. "What happened to you?" she demanded, her voice shaking with fury as she examined his injury. Tunde hesitated, his eyes downcast. It was Kemi, Mama. She said something about you and I couldn't stay quiet, so we fought." Funke, who overheard the conversation, felt a pang of guilt. Her daughter Kemi had inherited a fiery temper and tendency to speak without thinking. She rushed to Kemi's room, her heart filled with regret. "Kemi, what did you say to Tunde?" Funke asked, trying to keep her voice calm. Kemi, realizing she was in trouble, looked up with wide eyes. "Mama, I didn't mean to cause any trouble. I just said that Tunde was only smart because you did all his work for him." Funke sighed and pulled her daughter into a tight embrace. "Kemi, we are one family. You must learn to speak kindly and think before you act. Tunde is your brother. You must protect him as you would your own blood." Kemi nodded, tears in her eyes. "Mama, I'm sorry. I'll apologize to him." When Kemi approached Tunde to apologize, he looked at her with mixture of surprise and relief. "It's okay, Kemi," Tunde said, his voice gentle. "We all make mistakes. Let's just move on forward together." As Kemi and Tunde made amends, the entire compound seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. The small gesture of reconciliation between the children echoed the greater lessons their mothers had learned, that unity, forgiveness, and love were foundations upon which their family stood. Years passed, and Adewale's compound grew into a place of joy and harmony. The wives, once rivals, became true sisters, supporting each other through every trial and triumph. The children, raised in the environment of love and respect, grew up to be strong, compassionate, and wise. Adewale, now an old man, would often sit under the shade of the Iroko tree, watching his family with a heart full of pride. He had seen his household transform from a place of discord to a sanctuary of peace. The lessons learned within his compound became stories told throughout the Yoruba land, inspiring many to seek unity and forgiveness in their own lives. In his final years, Adewale called his wives and children to his side. "I have seen many things in this life," he began, his voice steady despite his age. "But the greatest blessing I have known is love and unity of this family. Hold on to each other, always. Do not let strife or envy tear you apart. You are stronger than you can ever be alone." As Adewale's words hung in the air, each member of the family felt the weight of his wisdom. They vowed to uphold the love and unity they had worked hard for. Adewale passed away peacefully in his sleep that night, leaving behind a legacy of love, wisdom, and unity. His family honored his memory by continuing to live in harmony, carrying forward the lessons that they had learned to the next generation. The story of Adewale and his family became a cherished tale in the Yoruba land, passed down from one generation to the next as a reminder of the power of forgiveness, the importance of unity, and the enduring strength of love. The end.